I'm glad that we're finally getting a chance to meet. I know the last time you were here in
Yes.
LA, I had to leave town or something, and I was so bummed because I really wanted to meet you, and there's just a lot I wanted to talk to you about. So it's nice to finally get to know you now.
Yes, man. I've been following you for a while. Love your work. Love your energy, your passion, and obviously love your expertise in the game.
Well,
So
thank you.
I'm honored to be a guest on your show.
Well, thank you so much. So listen, there's so much I want to talk to you about because
Sure.
after the fight stuff, I want to ask you about your time in Boston and stuff when you went to school. But first and foremost, obviously, the big deal thing is that you guys are going to have a one championship show here in the States in Denver. So
Yes.
just sort of basically like, how good does that feel to get that together, and how long have you been trying to get this to happen?
Well, right before COVID, we were in 2020. Our plans were to come to the States later that year, but then COVID hit in March of that year, and obviously countries shut down all over the world. And so it was a big disappointment. But I'm glad, 3 years later, here we are. And I arrived several days ago to the States, and been in New York City giving interviews and doing meetings and stuff. And the word I can best describe how I'm feeling is just a sense of deep gratitude. Deep gratitude, because I lived in the States for more than 18 years. And at one point literally had one suitcase with all of my life's belongings in it. And I was studying, and my mom was living in the dorm room with me in a single room dorm room. I was sleeping on the floor, my mom was sleeping in the bed, because we were dirt poor, eating one meal a day. And I can't believe that, many years later, and I think that was around 25 years ago, many years later, I'm coming back, to one of the greatest countries in the world who it literally, I lived the American dream. I was an immigrant. I came here, and effectively, I think like I had maybe $1,000 in my pocket, and that was it. Again, that's why. So for me, it's like surreal. It's a feeling of deep gratitude.
Yeah.
It's not to sound corny, but it's kind of magical. It's just I never,
Dude, it is. It's not corny at all. Like, it's not corny. I feel like a lot of, there's a lot of cynicism in the world right now, but at the same time, there's a lot of people saying, celebrate the moments, take care of your mental health, like, cherish the blessings that you have. Like, there's nothing
yeah.
corny about celebrating the fact that you had a dream and you're living it now.
Yeah. Pretty crazy though, crazy. So I'm super pumped. I mean, I think American fans, we're bringing the entire world to America. We're bringing, the home of martial arts to America, the very, very best across multiple disciplines. We're the Olympics of martial arts, if you will. American fans are very used to MMA only via the UFC. And they are the world's largest MMA organization. We're the world's largest martial arts organization. And they've dominated the West very well, and we've dominated the East. And I just can't wait for American fans to see our production value, our high level fights. Literally the world's best of the best across striking, grappling arts, and mixed martial arts. And of course, we have the trilogy to headline it.
Yes.
DJ is facing his most dangerous foe of his entire career.
Yeah.
He's in the best shape of his life. He's in his prime, but so is his opponent. And the crazy thing about this trilogy is, they both knocked each other out with a knee,
Right,
and so
right.
I'm thinking, how do they top this up? How do they top this one? I'm like, the only way they're going to top it is by literally doing, I don't know, a double flying knee with a double KO or something like that. I mean,
Right. Yeah.
but
You don't.
one for the ages. I feel it in my bones. And one little twist that I didn't anticipate was DJ is already talking retirement. He's saying this
That's
could
right.
be, most likely, is going to be his last fight ever. So American fans, if you want to see the GOAT in his last fight ever in the trilogy match for the ages, don't miss it. Amazon Prime, May 5th, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The fireworks are going to get lit all over the country and around the world.
I love it. I love it. You're cutting that promo right there. Well, I mean, and maybe you don't know, but I love Demetrious. Okay. So I've known him a really long time. And it's funny, I look back on interviews that I did with him. I have an interview with DJ, like outside of Vanderlei's gym in Vegas from years ago, not knowing that this guy was going to be the GOAT, which 100% he is. And yeah, you brought up a couple things I want to touch on. So yeah, he did mention recently that it might be his last one, when he hadn't really spoken about that before. And he was kind of like keeping some things is kind of close to the vest, you're like, hey, I'm not explaining everything, but there's a possibility that could be my last one. So yeah, when you guys made this trilogy fight, that you didn't know that, right? You guys were just thinking awesome trilogy.
I literally found out that DJ is considering retirement after this fight a few days ago when he was on Ariel's show.
Yeah. Wow. Well, he's amazing, and it's also interesting too. Was there any kind of reasoning behind doing the show in Denver? People know the first UFC show was in Colorado. I don't know if that was symbolic or anything.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was for a couple of reasons. On the practical side, it was because the Colorado State Athletic Commission was the most welcoming and aggressive in terms of approving the global rule set across all the different disciplines, again, and our hydration system and everything that comes with the way things are done out on the other side of the world. But the second reason, equally important, was we said, look, the birth of American mixed martial arts started in 1993 in Colorado. The birth of global mixed martial arts happened in Japan in, I think, 1983. So maybe a good 10 years before the birth of American mixed martial arts. But so I think it's very symbolic that, one is the home of martial arts. We're from the birthplace of martial arts. Asia has a 5,000-year history of martial arts. And for us to come in and pay homage to Colorado, which is literally the birthplace of American mixed martial arts, it's very symbolic in many ways. I mean, and so I think several other states were interested in and already approved our global rule set as well. But we chose Colorado. Again, they were the most welcoming and the most aggressive in wanting one here.
Nice. Well, I think it's great, and for all of those reasons. But let's dig into what you were talking about. So this show is, not only do we have DJ and Adriano Moraes, but we have you have MMA, you have submission grappling, and you have Muay Thai all in the same card, right?
And we have 3 world title fights, and I'm telling you, these 3 fights literally represent the best of the best on the planet. And that's what's, again, we've created this huge platform. We're broadcast live every week in 179 countries around the world. Shooting mostly out of Asia, and of course, all the different traveling circus the same thing that UFC does around the world. And the thing about this is it's a unique experience from a fan's perspective, whether you're watching on broadcast or whether you're in the stadium, because you get to see literally the Olympics of martial arts. They know the very, very best across the different disciplines, and of course, there's a very intriguing storylines as well. But I do know one thing about American fans: they love watching the very best of the best on the planet. And they love finishes. At one, we have a 70% finish rate, which is the highest in the world of the 3 major global organizations. I think UFC and Bellator are around 35%, 40%, around there. And it's a testament to our world champion martial artists, but it's also a testament to the fact that, the ethos of one is martial arts. And what do I mean by that, Karyn? Is that what you see in the unified rule system is a lot of times, many times actually, there's a lot of gaming. It's not really a fight. What they do is after the last 10 seconds of the round, you do a takedown, you win the round, lay and pray, and then you're 10-9, and now you're up 1-0, and then you do the same thing, 2-0, 3-0, and suddenly you win the fight. That is not martial arts. That's not fighting. That's gamification of a physical activity. It's no different than hide and seek or tag, because it's a game. Martial arts was born 5,000 years ago in Asia, and the primary purpose of martial arts is to defend yourself, to finish fights. So if you're a woman at home and somebody comes to your house, you can't just dance around and lay and pray for points. You're going to go there with your martial arts skills and finish the fight so that you're safe, right? Or at a minimum, so you can escape and run for your life. So that's the mindset of one, and I think it's because there's 2 reasons. One is it's the birthplace of martial arts from Asia, as I said. But I'm a lifelong martial artist. I've been doing Muay Thai for 38 years. I still train every day. I've done jiu-jitsu for 16 years. Also train maybe 4, 5, 6 times a week. And I'm traveling, whatever city I'm in, I always, hop into a jiu-jitsu academy or Muay Thai gym and
Have you gone to Cobrinha's then? It's right up the street. I don't know where you're staying, but I'll take you over to Cobrinha's.
It's so funny because I literally just messaged Cobrinha on Instagram. So
he's amazing. He's the sweetest guy too. And my God, like the best of the best. Come on.
Yeah, best of the best as well. Yeah. So I also messaged Henry Gracie, who's also a friend, if I could just stop by and train. So, and that's what I love about the martial arts community. Wherever I go around the world, it's a genuine community, and everyone's very, very friendly and welcoming. It's a one big family. And that's the thing. I want I think that's the thing. That's the thing about the authenticity of one. You know, it really resonates with the martial arts community because it's started by a lifelong martial arts, built for martial artists, and it's true to its authenticity in terms of how we represent martial arts, and it gets expressed in the 70% finish rate.
Yeah. Well, it's exciting, and I remember. I guess now it's crazy to think that it was that long ago in 2019 or whatever. But when you guys had a one press conference here in LA. I remember Misha was there, DJ was there, Sage was there, and everybody was all excited. And then as you said, all these things happened. So I want to talk about Sage though, because I'm sure he's like, Mr. Chatri, hello sir, yes sir, I would very much like a fight.
I love
is he not
Sage.
the sweetest kid?
First of all, Sage is an incredible human being.
Yeah.
But I don't think people really truly appreciate it. Again, I can appreciate it because I'm a lifelong martial artist.
Yeah.
Like Sage. Sage is literally a specimen. He is an unbelievable athlete, first and foremost. But he's also an unbelievable martial artist. It's like his skill set is very deep. And people don't really understand that. Obviously, I think he was on a 3 or 4 win streak when he left the UFC to join ONE.
Yep.
Unfortunately, he had a rough start at ONE, but here he is now, and I'm very excited. I think he still has the potential to do big things. Of course, there's huge questions. There are huge questions. When you get knocked out that battle and have your face fractured, is Sage going to come back gun shy, or is Sage going to come back with all these new skill sets in his toolbox because he's had time to refine and upgrade? To Sage Northcutt 2.0. So these are the big questions that I know fans all over the world will have. I have as well. I wish him the best because again, he's such a good kid. I really like Sage, man. Really, an amazing individual.
Yeah, I really hope the best for him as well. And I remember, when we first met him after a fight, and it was like, this kid can't be real, right? The way he's so polite and the way he would speak, and all of us were like, at first, there's a lot of cynical journalists and everybody's like, come on, this guy's like putting on an act. It was so genuine and so real and so sweet. Like you felt like you were the jerk if you didn't like him because he was so pure and innocent. You know what I mean? So I do wish him the best, and I hope he comes back stronger.
I couldn't agree with you more. He is the real deal. What you see is Sage publicly is what you see, behind closed doors. He's just the sweetest, most polite guy. He's brought up very well by the Northcutts. Mark is a wonderful father.
It's great. Well, so listen, obviously, with your show coming to the States on May 5th, how many times? How many do you guys already have a schedule of how many times you will return to the States? Like, what's the plan?
So I have a big meeting with the Amazon team and leadership, next week, and we both of us want to do something bigger and expand the partnership. So those discussions are kicking off and have been for the last, I think, several weeks. And so I don't want to overspeak. I can just tell you that this event is our very first, and it really marks the very beginning of the American expansion for ONE. And here's the thing. What took me by surprise, and I actually looked like an idiot in front of my team because I specifically chose a 7,000-seater stadium, a smaller stadium, because I said, look, we're brand new in America. No one knows us. Yes, we're on Amazon Prime, but we're still very young. I mean, it's an unknown entity. It's not a mainstream product the way UFC is. And my team was pounding, no, Chatri, we have a lot of fans. Let's go for 15,000, 20,000 seater. We'll sell it out. And, it's crazy. We announced in January with a ticket link at a couple of fights. Within a week and a half, 70% of the tickets were sold. And then several weeks ago, it sold out completely. Nice. So I'm like, of course, I'm kicking myself. We should have come in with our 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 seater. But, at the same time, I'm glad because now we have fans wanting for more and setting the stage, right? So, but I think the atmosphere is going to be electric. A lot of people from the martial arts community are flying in from all over the world to attend. It's going to be awesome.
Awesome. Well, I think it's great. And yes, now you've got that exclusive smaller party, right? That everybody's going to wish they had been a part of. One thing I am very curious about, I know that you said you guys have a 70% finish rate, which is a big thing. I feel like the one thing that could be the hiccup, which was always the hiccup for in the States, was the lighter weight classes, right? So we know with Demetrious, when he was in the UFC, there was talk that division was maybe going to get, eliminated. It has since been revived. It is doing great. And I think a lot of people have come to understand, thankfully, because of what ONE FC is doing and because everybody kept supporting those lighter weight classes, that we are seeing the talent there. But have you felt like maybe that was kind of the one hiccup? Because I feel like Americans were raised on, Muhammad Ali and George Foreman, like big heavyweight boxers and stuff. And so the indoctrination that we had here is of bigger fighters. And so I feel like it's been an uphill battle sometimes for the lighter weight classes. Have you felt any of that? And maybe is that also what you're trying to prove?
Yeah. So in Asia, definitely not. Asian fans love pure martial arts abilities and skills. And of course, the lower weight classes have that, above and beyond over the heavier weight classes, right? Because by definition, the heavier, let's say if you're 250, there are very few people who are 6'4", 250 in the world relative to people who are 5'10" and 155, right? So the level of competition, the level of skill set, and also obviously the athleticism, when you're smaller, because everyone has the same size heart.
Right.
The reason why the flyweights and bantamweights and featherweights can move all day long and literally go 1,000 miles an hour is because the body frame relative to the heart is the oxygen level through that body is far more superior than a heavyweight where you have maybe 3 minutes of explosive cardio, and then because the body's so big, you run out of oxygen in your system going to the lactic acid phase. But I'm sure there might be some intrigue factor when American fans see it, but I think once the fights get going, American fans are going to be shocked at the level of talent. Again, like I said, we're bringing the world to America. I think for a long time, American fans had, basically American MMA versus the whole world of martial arts, the very, very best from all over the world coming here. And I think that's going to be a very exciting thing. That being said, our heavyweight division is very stacked. And this is, Ariel was asking me yesterday about Francis Ngannou potentially coming to ONE.
Yeah.
And I said, look, every other heavyweight division of the other major organizations just doesn't have the talent to create any good matchups for Francis. At ONE, we actually have a lot of killers who are undefeated at heavyweight. We just take an example like Anatoly Malikin, as I mentioned before on yesterday's show. He's a 12-0 Russian national team wrestler with one-punch KO power. He's 12-0 with, I think, an 80%, 90% finish rate. Dangerous guy. I mean, very scary. We have guys like Buchecha, who's a 13-time Jiu-Jitsu world champion with explosive wrestling, unbelievable cardio. And I think he's 5-0 or something like that, 6-0. He's a very dangerous matchup for a guy like Francis, right? Because, Francis is a striker primarily, with big, heavy hands. His ground game is not, elite Jiu-Jitsu black belt level. Right. I'm not saying he can't get there one day, but where it is today. So when you just look at that, and I think the reason why we have such technical ability in all of our weight classes is because, I'm the purist in that sense. Like a lot of fighters, and I don't want to name names, are really good at Twitter or good at self-promotion, and not necessarily their skill sets are not necessarily there.
Yeah.
Around the world in different organizations.
For sure. At
ONE, it's the opposite. We have guys like DJ who are unbelievable, but they're not necessarily great at Twitter and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That is more the ethos of ONE. If you look across all of our martial arts disciplines, they are the very best in the world, like a DJ, but they're not as there isn't a mismatch between their social media presence and their abilities.
Because we know here you can, in a lot of organizations you can kind of talk your way into fights, and you can get a groundswell of attention or whatever based on the talking and not the fighting. But I guess that's also another hurdle that you got to jump over, right? Is if we do want to get better acquainted with a lot of the fighters in ONE FC because of where they might be located, social media either isn't there or it's different, or it's hard to get to know everybody.
Yeah, I like it because it's a differentiated product. So that's what you do see that our social media followers, following of our athletes and our social media content by our athletes, those are all themselves and authentic. But they've got millions of followers, just like the counterparts here in the U.S. But it's a different approach. It's just and our approach of marketing is very different, right?
Yeah.
Let's take the trilogy fight. Of course, it's a trilogy. We market the knockouts, but what we always do is we build the backstory of their life stories. as opposed to focus on the moment of hatred and anger and controversy. We say, look, did you know that DJ was born to a deaf mother and was an $8 an hour factory worker and with a mentally disabled younger sibling?
Yeah.
Did you know that Adriano Moraes was literally left on the streets of Brazil, picked up by an orphanage, and then later as a baby, and then at 3 years old, he was adopted by a Caucasian mother. He's of African Brazilian descent, and that in itself is an unbelievable, impossible odds. You know, you're left on the streets as a baby. You would expect your baby to die, but by pure grace of God or the universe, whatever it is, you know, he was picked up and put in an orphanage, and then by the grace of God, a loving mother, you know, from a different race, you would just think all these kind of things mixed up together. And this is like, you know, 30 years ago, right? It's not like, I think around the world, racial differences have closed, the gap has closed in terms of acceptance, right? Maybe America's going through a little bit of a tension phase, but directionally we're moving in the right place on a long-term basis, right? Let's say like versus 50 years ago versus 100 years ago, right? So, but the point that is, we want to showcase those stories to inspire our fans and have a deeper connection with our athletes. So, you know, UFC will typically sell the fight, meaning the hatred, the anger between the athletes. We sell heroes, and their values and their stories behind it, so that entire countries can rally behind them and when they go to battle. And we don't mind trash talking. It's just that I think there's a line that you should not cross if you're a professional athlete. I mean, just like the NBA or NFL, there is a code of conduct. I mean, you can beat up your opponent all you want, but I don't think you should go after her family or their children or their religion. You know, there are things like, again, that for me is despicable human behavior. And there's no need to go there, because this is a professional sport. These are lifelong martial artists. They've trained their whole life to be on the biggest stage in the world. And that's something beautiful to celebrate.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I like a little bit of trash talk to a degree, but again, yes, you're right. Not involving the family, only involving the two people in the fight, and you know, the kind of good, that kind of stuff I do appreciate.
I don't have anything against trash talking. I just think that, you know, if I say, hey, I'm going to knock you the hell out, or whatever it is, you know, or I'm going to, or you have zero cardio, or your technique sucks, or you know, you're a wuss. That's all fine. Because that's on the sport, that's on the actual competition, right? But to go beyond that is just
it's not cool. It's not cool. Well, you know, speaking of families, I want to circle back to something that you mentioned before, and people who have read your sort of story and know about it, but you did mention when your mom was living in the dorm with you. So I want to talk to you about a little bit of stuff, because you went to undergrad at Tufts, right? And then got your master's at Harvard?
Yes.
Right. So I went to Brown, and I am from outside of Boston, though. So I got to ask about a couple of things. But was she with you at Tufts? Was she with you at Harvard? Was she with you at both places?
No. At Harvard is when she was basically home, when she lost everything. Yeah. Oh, gosh. I mean, and so the Asian culture is very different than American culture, or the Thai culture, I should say. I'm originally from Thailand. I grew up there. The oldest son is if something happens to the father, the oldest son has to take care of family. You become the patriarch,
right?
And usually that transition doesn't happen until much later. Of course, my father, when he went bankrupt and abandoned us, and we lost our home and our car, and it was not you know, of course I had to. My mother, and this left me a deep imprint on me, in that my mom subscribed to the traditional housewife, you know, she's
those roles, right? Yeah.
Okay. You know, where you take care of the kids in the home and the husband. This is the old school, right? 50s and 60s, 70s. And she did, you know, she was an incredible mother, and she was a great wife, and she didn't have a resume. She didn't have work experience.
Right.
So when I saw that happen, I'm like, man, like, you know, it really, you know, of course it broke my heart in a million pieces, but it's just devastating that, you know, my mom didn't do anything wrong. You know, she fulfilled her side of the partnership. So again, that really changed my perspective on life. And also it's why one is so pro gender equality. Why we're the only major global organization that's ever done an all women's card. Why Angela Lee, has been the face of one for the longest time. We could have had a 250-pound giant male as the face, but we went for the very best martial arts on the planet. And Angela Lee at the time was the youngest world champion in history of any major global organization, and she just had everything. The charisma, the skill set, the life story, and when we made her one of the highest paid athletes on the roster, male or female, there was a big outcry, across Asia. I got a lot of hate mail, a lot of hate messages. She's a woman, and we made a statement with that because I think that's for all of us, and especially in your seat as well, Karyn, we have a chance by how we think, what we say, what we think we say and we do, as because we have a voice in the world, and I think you can choose to use the voice in a way that inspires humanity to be better, or you can use your voice in a way that creates division and maybe a less hopeful place in the world. And so that's something we chose very early on to do with our athletes. And again, a lot of this journey has been very personal, and that's why I said it's very surreal and very very not in my wildest dreams, when my mother and I were living in my dorm room, could we have envisioned, or could I have envisioned? I didn't even have this dream, to be honest. It was just my first dream was, let me make sure I can take care of my mother and my younger brother. Let me make sure I can send my younger brother to school, pay for his school fees and stuff. Those are my biggest concerns. Let me make sure I have enough money for next month's food for my mother. Right. We were living on $1.50 microwave frozen food. It was just, and I was always constantly worried about next month, how am I going to get the money? And of course, I taught Muay Thai. I had loans, I had all this other stuff. But the point is just that that struggle gave birth to a lot of things, but at the same time, that's why I have such a sense of deep gratitude right now.
Right. Well, it really is an incredible story, and honestly, you can see the parallel. I mean, what you went through in your own story, is maybe why you feel like telling those backstories of your athletes as well, is because you feel, a kindred spirit with them as a practicing martial artist yourself, and who's had to go through all of this to get to the point. So it really is an incredible story. Because I think of it, I'm like, I grew up outside of Boston. I know how expensive it is there. Like, you can't go over to the Coop. You can't walk around Harvard Square. Like, it's not cheap. You can't spend money there.
I could not go on dates. I did not. I did not go to Subway. I used a Subway. I obviously couldn't take taxis. I walked everywhere, or I ran. If I had to go to a meeting, I would run. Right. That was my mode of transportation. It was so I was always thinking, okay, if I go walk into Harvard Square and I have to take the T, it's $1.50 at the time. Or maybe it was $2. I can't remember, but it was too expensive because I budgeted $4 a day. That was all I could afford. And I could not. And I had an Excel spreadsheet, Karyn, and literally it was down to the penny. And I made it a self competition. Actually, I said to myself, how can I beat $4? And so some days I'll be at $3.57 or whatever, right? Then I'd be really happy. The next day I'll be at $4.20. I'll be really pissed. But the point is that I look back on those days, and I know it's twisted and bizarre, but I actually look on those days with gratitude today, because it taught me so much. First of all, a lot of life lessons about just perseverance and grit and hardship and the meaning of true love. For your mother and vice versa. But it also taught me a lot about who I was. It's like there were times I wanted to quit. There was times where I'm like, there's no way. I actually was contemplating not even going to a school because we didn't have the funds. I didn't have the funds. I had to go figure it out. And my mother said, no, Chatri, we scrounge up $1,000 and you're going to go to America and emigrate. And you're going to bring the rest of the family when you are there. And I'm like, but there's no way I could do that. I just didn't feel confident. And I didn't have, what am I going to do? How am I going to get, semesters, school fees? How am I going to get living expenses? All these things were, all in my mind. Right. So, but again, like today, I'm super grateful because I went through that journey.
Yeah. It's great. I mean, look at it, there's no replacing those life lessons that you learned. So I know it's incredible, and it's obviously why you're successful today. Did you used to go? I'll let you go in a second here, but did you used to go down to Mike's Pastry ever? Like if you, so it was down in like Haymarket, around like the North End. If you know what I mean, because I used to take the tea. Yes, Mike's Pastry, and they had the string hanging from the ceiling to tie the boxes.
I forgot the name. I forgot the name, but the minute you said North End, I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yes, the cannoli. Oh my God.
Yes. I love Little Italy in Boston. It's such a cool place. It's such a happening place. Wow, a trip down memory lane.
Yes, it is. Well, listen, Boston's amazing. And the funny thing is because I love Singapore. I'm envious that you live in Singapore. I've been there a couple of times, and I'm like, I love it there. I told my kid, I'm like, I could live there. And she was watching an anime, and there was an anime, and there was a scene, and they had the gardens in the background, and I didn't even know what show she's watching. I walked in the room, I'm like, are they in Singapore? She just looked at me like I had three heads. She's like, how the hell did you know they're in Singapore? Wow. But my mom and I went there years ago, and then we went a couple years back. I got my mom hooked on Thai food over there. Oh, wow. Like all this, the street food event. I'm not telling you about it, but it's such an amazing place. I
love Singapore. I'm not even Singaporean. When I was coming back to Asia after I don't know, 18 plus years in the US, I was deciding where do I go and live, because I lived so long in the US.
Yeah.
I never actually expected to move back to Asia. I was kind of Americanized. And
right.
At the same time, Singapore has the best of Asia and the best of West and best of East.
Exactly.
Right? And so you don't feel like life is so different, because you have all the modern amenities, you have all the language, the progressivism, but at the same time you still have that unique flavor of culture and history and food
I love it. It's true, and it's true because I lived in Manhattan for 7 years. I like being around a bunch of different kinds of people, and that's the whole thing. Is like you get there and you feel like you're in the center of the world. Like there's so much culture, all kinds of cross cultures coming in together. So just a very cool place. But yes, of course, now that you guys are going to be having the shows over here, we will maybe have more of a chance to get to know some of your fighters.
For sure. Obviously my crew here in the U.S. Working really hard, and I have to decide how much time I'm going to spend here. And again, I've lived in the States for a long time. It's very easy for me to move back here and be based out of here if the situation calls for it. So a lot of things these discussions with Amazon, we'll know a little bit more later.
Nice. Well, best of luck to you. But once again, we have the trilogy fight with DJ Demetrious Johnson against Adriano Moraes, on the 5th. And we also have Muay Thai on there, submission grappling. We got Sage Northcutt's return.
World title fights.
Yes, 3 world title fights. And you guys can find it on Amazon Prime. So excited for that. And Chatri, just really great to get to know you. And I'm really glad that we had the time today. Wishing you the best of luck and everything. And just continued success. It's such an incredible life story, very inspirational. And I feel like a lot of people can learn a lot from you, even if they aren't your apprentice, right?
Thank you so much, Karyn. I appreciate it.
All right. Take it easy and best of luck to you.
Bye-bye. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.